Hey guys, back at the farm. Today's going to be another scorcher. Not going to talk too much because you can't see it, but I have a trailer full of OSB and insulation. So yeah, let's get started. Sometimes I feel like the setup takes most of my time out here. All right, anyways, I've got a handful of some old decking screws, some roofing nails, some random things. The reason why I'm going to use these to tack the foam onto the studs. Keep in mind, the foam is not the structural part, the sheathing is the structural part. I just need something to hold it there while I mess around with the sheathing. So while I do that, I am going to try to make a jig here to hopefully make my life easier. And the idea is pretty simple. I'm putting a screw at 2 feet. It's 24 inches from either side. Perfect. This is also 4 feet wide. So if I line up my foam with my sheathing board, I now have a reference point that I can drop a chalk line and start cutting. And that's it. I'm just trying to speed this up because I'm going to have to do this a couple of times. Maybe. Come on. There we go. Now, the only reason why I'm cutting this stuff is because I'm trying to stagger the seams. I'm gonna have 4 foot sheet or 4 foot, wide sheets of sheathing running across here. I'm cutting this down to 2 feet so that I'll basically have 4 foot matching up with 2 foot, and I'm not just gonna have this perfect seam just letting air run from the outside all the way to the inside. I'm always trying to stagger my seams whenever I get the opportunity. All right, you guys have seen me cut this stuff before, but basically it's kind of like, if you're still there, it's hard to tell with my glasses on. Yeah, it's kind of like cutting drywall. Once you cut the face, you have to kind of bend it and then cut the paper back. This has sort of like a plastic coating on both sides, so I can't reach that. Hold on. Oh. Let's do it sideways. And there you go. You get a nice clean cut that way. All right, I'm gonna go put this on and then I'll show you what it looks like after. All right, so this is basically what it's gonna look like. I'll show you a close-up here in a second, but you might notice that the bottom of this foam is actually resting on top of the sill plate. Let me do it this way. So I have the sill plate, I have the foam resting on top of it, and then the sheathing is going to come all the way down and basically drape past it so that I can nail into that sill plate. And that's going to seal all of that foam just behind the sheathing. There's different ways of doing it. This is more similar to what you might see with the Zip R Sheathing, or I think LP Core or something like that. LP has a brand that is basically marries the foam and the sheathing together in one step, and if you're a commercial builder, that's probably a better way to go. It's also like 3 times the price, and time is a lot cheaper for me. So anyways, this is what I'm doing. I'm just going to keep going with this. I'm actually going to start putting sheathing up as well. It's getting scary because I'm having to take all the legs off. Everything's tied together. The top plates are tied together. We have blocking all along, as you can see there in the corner. So we should be pretty good. It's just nerve-wracking. But wish me luck. I'll see you in a little bit. So now this poly sheet is pushed up against the studs. The sheathing is going to come down and sit over top of the sill plate, and then obviously nail into that. Now I did make one small change. You might notice the sheet behind me is a little taller. I'm putting the full 4 feet of board behind me. I'm not cutting these. I'll cut whatever the difference is on top, because I wasn't thinking straight. The 4-foot foam is not going to be resting on the same place as the 4-foot sheathing, which means there's going to be an 1.5 inch difference between those 2 seams. So I don't have to do all of this work to try to stagger them. They're just going to naturally stagger, which is great. It's saving me work. And it's not a big deal that I cut the first one, whatever, but the rest of this I'm just going to keep going with full sheets until I have to make cuts. Well, in true Honeydew Homestead fashion, I didn't bring the right nails for my nailer. I have the longer framing nails. I bought like some 2.5 for sheathing, and I have about the 3 or 3 1/4 or something like that for framing, and that's just too long to stick into this little 7/16 OSB. So I'm going to tack it in with exterior screws. Next time I come out to the farm, I'm going to bring the right nails and then I'll go back and just pop, pop, pop. It'll be fun because everything will be up and then I just get to shoot. All right. All right. Okay guys, as you can see, I'm starting to put the sheathing around the corner. I'm just doing one course as far as I can get. We'll see if I start on the second course today, but I'll say this much. It's already getting really solid. It's shocking. I mean, I've only got about 5 or 6 screws in each one of these pieces of sheathing. Like I said earlier, I'm going to come back when I bring the right nails next time, and I'm going to nail this whole thing in. But for now, she's rock solid with just a handful of screws. Sheathing, man, stuff's amazing. Now you might notice here these corners don't line up. The reason for that is because of the foam, and the only way I'd be able to do this to get these to actually overlap would be to basically waste a whole sheet by cutting 2 foot 2 inches or something that I can slide over to get these to meet up. And then I would run full sheets all the way along, but in order to get those extra 2 inches, because my building is exactly 16 by 24, in order to get this extra length, I would basically have to kind of cut up an extra sheet. Instead, I think what I'm going to do is most likely tape this corner, and we'll call it a day. We do have insulation as far as we can get. There's maybe a small little gap here, but I'm okay with this. I think we'll be all right. This is that extra 1.5 inches that I was talking about before. Since the foam is sitting on top of the sill plate and the sheathing is covering the sill plate, that's where I'm getting this extra 1.5 inches. And that way the seams don't line up. So the next piece of foam will sit on top of this one, obviously, but then the next piece of sheathing will sit on top of the sheathing. So they're going to be off, and there's not going to be a clear channel of air that can travel through. Regardless, I'm going to try to wrap this, and we're going to use, you know, house wrap with tape and all that kind of fun stuff. So hopefully this thing's going to be pretty airtight. I've got one more to go on this wall. I'm going to go ahead and finish this up, take a water break, and then we'll see where we go from there. That could have been much worse. I don't know about you. Maybe it's just me. I'm a little absent-minded at times. I get very hyper-focused on something. Sorry if I'm yelling, I had my headphones on. I get very hyper-focused on stuff. So before I even put this board down, I like to either completely remove the nails, or at least I pound them back until they're flush, because if I just throw this thing on the ground, I'm going to end up looking up at my wall, stepping back to bask in the beauty, and I'm going to stick my foot right through that nail. It's going to be like Home Alone or something. Which, by the way, that scene has traumatized me my entire life. That guy stepping on that nail. And you might notice the publicly broadcasted version of Home Alone does not show that scene. Back up your nails, guys. Ow. I'm not sure if you can see it here, but I'm trying to keep about an 1/8 inch gap there. This is actually a requirement by code. You want to have about an 1/8 inch gap between this stuff because it's going to get wet, dry, it's going to swell, shrink, it's going to want to warp and twist, you know, and so you want to make sure that you allow the wood to do that naturally. And if these things are butted up against each other, they're just going to push until something buckles or chips or pops out. You're better off just leaving a little bit of space. You can fill the space with taping if you like. We might do that, we'll see. But in the meantime, keep in mind behind that I have styrofoam, so there is no open gap to the other side. So here's the next piece of insulation. Here's where it's cut. There's a stud running right here that this is screwed into, and this piece continues on through here, and there is foam up behind this. I don't think I can show it to you, but it's definitely back there. Oh man, putting this stuff up is kind of a pain. I was thinking the roof was going to be a problem, but I don't know. The putting up the sheathing might be a bigger problem. It's like trying to flatten a potato chip. All of these boards are just twisted and warped. So, as an extra pair of hands, what I've done is I built this little jig right here. Just put a couple of screws on the back, made a little pocket, and then I can take this, screw it into the OSB below, and now that gives me basically a French cleat to drop the sheathing into, either on one or both sides if I have two of these. And then I only have to worry about the sheathing blowing over in the wind, so I just have to hold it while I work with it. But at least I have these two extra pair of hands to hold it up for me, and I just need to balance it, which is much easier. Ooh, getting bright. Let me move you guys. So this is what it's going to look like on the inside, at least until I get, you know, some batt insulation in, which honestly I might hold off on. This might be enough in the beginning, and the batt insulation is obviously an extra cost. But as you can see, I pretty much have all of the foam insulation up on this entire back wall. Behind you is the glazing wall. So I went ahead and did this wall. I have OSB on the outside of this all the way up to the top. And yeah, I think we're mostly done with one wall. But I'm gonna take another water break. I think I'm gonna reevaluate, see if I have any more in me, see if I can wait for the sun to go down. Maybe I'll do a little bit more, maybe not, we'll see. In the meantime, this seems like a great place to leave you guys. What do you guys think? Drop me a like if you like this idea. I'm liking it so far. It's looking really cool. As always, you guys be good. I'll see you on the next one. Oh yeah. She's mighty, letting it all hang out.